She heard the scratching again, above the ceiling this time. Then a soft whisper, "Do you want to come play?" Sophia froze. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the blinking monitors and the hallway glow under the door. Her body, stitched and bruised from the car accident, ached. Her morphine drip clicked, faintly in the silence. She wasn't supposed to be awake. She wasn't supposed to be hearing anything, especially not a child's voice, coming from the air vent. 2 weeks ago, Sophia Mason had been a rising name in tech. 31, driven, childless by choice, married to a fellow workaholic named Theo. Her life was organized, efficient, ambitious. Until the crash. She remembered only flashes. Rain, headlights, glass, then blackness. She woke up 2 days later in the trauma unit, wrapped in casts, with 3 fractured ribs and one haunting detail she couldn't explain. She remembered a little girl sitting next to her in the wreckage, holding her hand saying, "Don't cry. You'll see me again soon." Only paramedics said no one else was found in the car, not a child, not even Theo. The first time she heard the girl again was 2 nights after surgery. She chalked it up to the meds. Delirium, probably. But then it happened again, and again. Always at night. Always from the vent. Sometimes scratching, sometimes whispering. Once, a tiny eye looking through the grate. She screamed that time. Called the nurse. Demanded they check the ducts. They found nothing. By day, Sophia kept quiet. She let them think she was healing. But at night, the hallucinations grew louder. More real. One evening, she woke to find her hospital bed slowly sliding across the floor. Her hands locked at her sides. Paralyzed but awake. The ceiling opened like a hatch, and a girl with long black hair and paper-pale skin peered down. "You don't belong here," she said. "This is my room now." And then, like that, Sophia blinked and the room was still. But she could still feel the burn on her wrist where the girl had touched her. And the next morning, there was a red mark there. A handprint. When she told the psychiatrist, he nodded too easily. "It's not uncommon," he said gently. "Trauma patients often experience vivid dreams and waking hallucinations. Your brain is trying to cope." But Sophia had never hallucinated before. She'd never even taken antidepressants. And this didn't feel like her mind breaking. It felt like something invading. She began secretly recording audio from her phone. At night. By the 4th night, she captured something, static. Then, a faint child's voice. "They locked me in the wall. But I found a way out. Want to see?" Sophia played it back, again and again. Not a dream, not her imagination. This voice was real. She became obsessed with the vent. Each night, she stared at it. She asked the staff, casually, how old the hospital was. Built in 1963, renovated many times. But the original psychiatric ward had been sealed decades ago after a scandal no one wanted to talk about. Sophia bribed a nurse named Claire for old blueprints. What she found chilled her to the bone. There was a hidden chamber behind the walls. Near her room. A forgotten crawl space that used to connect patient observation rooms. And it ran right through the vent system, including the one above her bed. That night, the voice came again. Clearer than ever. "Want to see what they did to me?" Sophia whispered back, "Who are you?" The vent cover rattled slightly. The girl's voice giggled. Then a whisper, "I'm the one who didn't get out in time." Sophia's blood turned to ice. She pressed record on her phone again and sat up slowly. And then, from the shadow of the vent, something dropped. A crumpled photograph. Old, black and white. A young girl in a hospital gown, standing in a hallway, pale, blank stare. Behind her, men in white coats. And something scratched on the back. Room 309. They said I imagined everything. So I stopped speaking. Sophia turned the photo over 3 times, trembling, because she was in room 309 now. The next morning, she demanded to be moved. They laughed at her. You've only got 2 days left, the nurse said. You're recovering. Why complicate things? Sophia stared at her. Flatly, something is in that room. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat upright, lights off, waiting, and at 3:17 a.m., the vent began to creak. Then the hatch popped open, and the girl dropped into the room, pale, barefoot, with blood-stained bandages on her wrists and dark. Hollow eyes, Sophia screamed. But nothing came out. She was frozen. Paralyzed. The girl approached slowly. Humming. She reached Sophia's bed, climbed up, pressed a finger to her lips. They thought I was lying too. Then she leaned close and whispered something that shattered Sophia's soul. Your husband's not dead, but he will be soon. Unless you come with me. 2 days later, Sophia discharged. She said nothing, told no one, but she returned that night. She snuck into the hospital. Back to room 309. She opened the vent herself, dragging a chair under it. And this time, she climbed inside. The crawl space was pitch black, narrow, cold. She crawled for what felt like forever until she found another hatch. A second room. Inside, rows of drawings, crayon, pencil, charcoal, hundreds of them. On every wall, a girl screaming, a man watching. Words like, no one believed me. I can still hear them. They watch while you sleep. Sophia was shaking. Then she turned and saw another photo taped to the wall. Her husband, Theo. In a hospital gown, lying in a bed, hooked to machines, but he was supposed to be dead. That's what they told her. That's what the accident had done. But this photo was dated last week. She ran out of the crawl space, out of the hospital, out into the pouring rain. Back home, she tore through the documents, looked again at Theo's death certificate, and saw something wrong. A different hospital name. Not where she'd been. A private long-term care facility in another city. She'd never questioned it, never asked to see the body. They said there wasn't one, that the fire had burned too much. But now she knew. Theo was alive. And someone, maybe the girl, wanted her to know why. Final scene. That night, Sophia returned to room 309. One last time, she sat in the dark and waited. The vent opened at 3:17 a.m. As always, the girl emerged, slower this time. You saw him, she said. Sophia nodded, tears in her eyes. Why are you showing me this? The girl looked sad, almost human. Because you're the only one who can end it. I don't want to be alone anymore. Sophia reached out, trembling, touched the girl's cold hand. What do you mean? End. What? The girl leaned in. Room 309 isn't a room. It's a doorway. They opened it in 1964, and they never closed it. Sophia blinked. The lights in the room began to flicker. The floor shifted, slightly, like something under the tiles was breathing. And then the girl whispered one last sentence. You're not hallucinating, Sophia. You're remembering, Nina. Woke up choking, again. This time it wasn't a nightmare. The oxygen mask was missing. Her hands were trembling. The machine beside her bed flashed red. But the worst part? The painting on the wall had moved. Not just the frame, the eyes. The girl in the painting was now looking straight at her. And she hadn't been the night before. Nina Verma was 26, a visual artist with a background in surrealist painting and trauma therapy. 6 months ago, she'd been diagnosed with sleep paralysis, auditory hallucinations, and PTSD after a break-in that nearly ended her life. Her therapist suggested a wellness retreat, nature, quiet, meditation. Instead, Nina was now in a private mental rehabilitation center in the remote hills of Oregon. Luxurious, peaceful, but oddly cold. Something about the place always felt slightly off. The room was minimalist. White bed, pale green walls, no electronics except a lockdown tablet. For journaling, the only decoration was the framed painting above her bed. A girl with long black hair, pale skin, and blank, haunting eyes. The placard said, "Untitled, Artist Unknown. Donated by the Callahan Institute, 1983. The first night she'd arrived, Nina stared at that painting for hours. It stirred something in her. A chill, a memory, a whisper of fear she couldn't name. By the third night, she started dreaming about the girl, and by the fifth, the girl was talking to her. "You know me," she'd said the first time. "I saw you once. You were crying outside your dad's room." Nina had bolted awake. Her father had died when she was 15, in a psychiatric hospital. She'd never told anyone that detail. And no one at this facility should have access to it. So how did the girl in the painting know? She told her night nurse, a kind woman named Elle, but Elle just smiled softly. "Art plays with your mind, Nina, especially when you're healing." But Nina wasn't just seeing things. She started waking up with drawings in her hand, sketched in charcoal. Always the same, a long hallway with flickering lights, a vent just above the bed, and the girl crouched inside, watching. Nina hadn't drawn them. She couldn't have. Her hands were strapped at night, a policy for patients with sleepwalking or trauma response. Yet the drawings kept appearing, and one morning, the word "remember" was scratched into her window pane. She began digging. On her 6th day, she convinced an orderly to bring her coffee and slipped into the staff library while he was distracted. There, in an old filing cabinet marked Art Donations, she found the record, Untitled, Portrait of Unidentified Girl, Origin, Callahan Psychiatric Research Wing, 1964, Subject 7, deceased during experimental trauma therapy, painting recovered. Postmortem from patient's art journal, condition unstable, but preserved for archival purposes, and there, taped to the folder, a photograph. The girl in the painting. Only this time, the photo was taken inside a burned-out room. Room number visible. Behind her, 309. That night, Nina didn't sleep. She stared at the painting for hours. The girl's expression had shifted, no longer blank, but almost pleading. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Nina felt a cold breeze brush her cheek. There was no window open, no vent in the room. But still, she heard the whisper. She found the door. "You have to help her close it." Nina sat bolt upright. "Who are you?" she asked the empty air. The girl's voice answered softly, like it was being funneled through her own heartbeat. "I'm the memory they tried to bury." Flashback -2006. Nina was 7 when she saw something no child should ever see. Her father, manic, paranoid, had dragged her into the basement of their house, claiming, "They're watching us through the wires." He made her sit in the dark for hours. And then, just before the police arrived, he whispered, "If you ever hear the girl humming, run. She's not yours anymore." She thought it was a delusion, a madman's warning, but now, she was hearing the humming again. Back to present. Final night at the facility, Nina tried to request discharge, but the staff said no. They claimed she was regressing, that her sleep records showed she was getting worse. But Nina wasn't crazy, she was being watched, tested. And the painting was the only thing that felt honest. So she made a plan. She stole a spoon during breakfast, used it to pry open the painting's frame, and behind the canvas, taped to the wood, another drawing. It was of Sophia, the woman from Part 1, standing in front of an old brick building labeled North Ridge Psychiatric Restricted. And on the back, written in a child's handwriting, "We're all from the same place. Room 309 opens both ways." That night, Nina faked taking her meds. At 3:17 a.m., she stood in front of the painting and whispered, "I'm ready." The painting rippled like water. The eyes blinked. And then her room lights exploded, and the air filled with ash, fine black ash. The girl's voice screamed, "Close the door, Nina, before they come through." The wall behind the painting cracked dot, and through the crack, she saw Sophia, wide-eyed, bloody, standing in a room full of vents and fire. "Sophia?" Nina screamed. Sophia looked back, stunned. "You see me?" And then the lights went black. Final scene. 12 hours later, Nina was found unconscious in her room. No explanation. No damage to the painting. No signs of anyone else. But when they took her to the hospital, she woke up screaming. The door opened. "I saw her. I saw room 309, and on her palm, written in charcoal, was a number 3. Tyler couldn't breathe. Not because of the smoke, but because the man standing in the hallway was on fire. And still smiling. The flames didn't seem to hurt him. They licked at his skin, danced in his eye sockets, flickered along his outstretched hands, and worst of all, Tyler remembered him from childhood, from a fire that no one else remembered, from dreams that weren't dreams. Tyler Hart was a combat medic, 32, decorated, discharged 2 years ago after a roadside bomb turned half his unit into names on granite walls. Therapy didn't help. He refused pills. But what finally broke him was a hallucination in the hospital tent. Moments after pulling shrapnel from a boy's neck, he turned around and saw a girl crawling out from under the operating table, barefoot, black hair, burned hands. She said, "You left me behind," and then disappeared. Back home, the hallucinations didn't stop. They got worse. He began seeing fire trails where there were none. Every time he turned on a stove, the flame whispered things. Sometimes in a child's voice, sometimes his own. His VA therapist had diagnosed it as survivor's guilt with trauma-induced hallucinations. But Tyler wasn't sure. Not anymore, because 2 nights ago, he'd received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, a burnt photograph of a girl in a hospital gown, a slip of paper that read, "They think it's trauma, but it's memory." Room 309 was never shut. He had never told anyone about room 309, not even his therapist, not even himself. Flashback -1998. Tyler was 5. He remembered smoke. He remembered screaming. He remembered a metal door closing behind him while someone held him back, but not what happened after. His foster records claimed he'd been in a house fire, found in the closet, and placed with a new family. No names, no follow-ups, he'd convinced himself it wasn't real. Until now. Back to present. The dream that broke him. Tyler had been sleeping on the couch. Lights on, gun under the cushion. He didn't remember falling asleep. But in the dream, if it was a dream, he was back in the burning hallway. And the man made of fire was standing at the far end, holding something. A child's bracelet. The same one Tyler had when he was 5. A hospital tag. Only this one had another name scratched into the plastic. Nina Verma. He woke up screaming. Burn marks on his wrists. And in the ash-filled corner of his kitchen, someone had written, "You're the 3rd. She found you too late." 48 hours later, Tyler's search begins. He started digging. Nina Verma, recent patient at a rehab facility in Oregon, vanished after a psychotic episode. No further records. He found a photo of her from an old art interview. She looked exactly like the girl from the hallucination in the tent. Then he found Sophia Mason's blog, the tech consultant who vanished from her job after a car crash. She'd posted one final cryptic message. Not all ghosts are dead. Some are memories, some are warnings. 3 names, 3 stories, and 1 number connecting them all. 309. The return to where it began. Tyler drove across 2 states to find the building listed in the envelope. North Ridge Psychiatric Hospital. Closed in 1989, sealed, condemned, but not empty. He broke in through a side entrance. The floor groaned beneath his boots. Vents rusted, walls crumbling. Old gurneys turned to skeletons of chrome. Room 309 was down the east wing. The plaque was still on the door, burnt edges, faded lettering. Smelled like smoke. Inside, he found a child's drawing of a girl in flames, a mirror covered in black fingerprints, a voice on loop, playing from an old cassette machine. He lied. He said the door would stay closed. But now they're all waking up, then silence. And then the vent above the bed rattled. The girl appears again. She dropped from the vent like smoke, graceful, eerie, not entirely real. Tyler raised the gun. She didn't flinch. "You were there," she said softly, "when they burned us." He shook his head. "No, I was just a kid." "You were the key," she whispered. "You were the one who opened it." Tyler stepped back. "What are you talking about?" The girl looked up at the ceiling. "You don't remember because they erased you. Just like they erased Sophia. Just like they erased Nina." Tyler's eyes widened. "You know them?" The girl stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. "I don't just know them. I brought them back." What she reveals, the hallucinations weren't hallucinations. They were echoes, fragments, of a failed experiment from the 1960s. A secret program, Project Threshold, designed to manipulate trauma in children to force controlled psychic access. Glimpses into a shared consciousness. Across space and time, Room 309 was the core testing site. All three children, Sophia, Nina, and Tyler, had passed through the program as infants or toddlers. But after a fire, destroyed most of the records and killed a subject, Subject 7, the program was buried. Forgotten. Except by those who remembered through their trauma. And now, the door was open again. A fire that can't be put out. The girl pressed her hand to Tyler's chest. "You're the only one who can carry the final memory." He collapsed, gasping, as visions flooded him. A child screaming in a locked room, men in white coats arguing over charts, a girl being strapped down, her mouth sewn shut, a fire starting in the vents, and someone watching from behind the glass. He jolted back, coughing. "Why are you showing me this?" The girl's face twisted, a moment of pain. "Because they're still doing it, somewhere else." Room 309 was just one doorway. Tyler stood. Then, "Where's the next?" The room filled with smoke again. But this time, it wasn't in his mind. Sirens wailed in the distance. The building was catching fire again, and above the bed, the vent creaked once more. But it wasn't the girl this time. It was a man, covered in soot, wearing hospital scrubs, laughing. His skin blistered and melted, but his smile stayed. "You always were my favorite," he said. "Welcome back, soldier." Tyler's eyes widened in recognition. It was the same man from his dream. The one made of fire. The one who gave the order to light. Room 309. Decades ago. And now he was alive. Sophia stared across the dimly lit motel room at the man she thought was dead. Theo. Her husband, bruised, hooked to a portable oxygen tank, staring back at her like she was the ghost. "I didn't die," he said quietly. "They just needed you to believe I had." Sophia's stomach twisted. She gripped the table to keep herself upright. "I saw the photo," she whispered. "You were in some kind of facility. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't anyone tell me?" He gave a tired, broken smile. "Because the girl wouldn't let me." 24 hours earlier, Sophia had driven for 9 hours straight to a long-abandoned facility, once a trauma ward, now overgrown with ivy and secrecy. Inside, she'd found Tyler bleeding beside a smoldering wall. The building had caught fire again, but he'd escaped. She dragged him out, half-conscious, into the open air. Nina was already waiting, having followed the signs she'd seen in her hallucinations, signs the girl left behind. And now, all three of them were together. But it didn't feel like a reunion. It felt like a funeral. In the motel room that night, as Tyler's hands trembled and Nina stared blankly at the floor, Sophia finally said it. "Who is she?" Tyler looked at her. "The girl?" Sophia nodded. Nina exhaled slowly and said, She was Subject 7. Her real name was Elsie. She was one of us, but she died inside room 309 during the final experiment. Tyler clenched his jaw. No, she didn't die. They buried her in our minds, but she's still somewhere. Sophia rubbed her temples. And now she's pulling us back? Nina spoke quietly. She's not trying to haunt us. She's trying to finish what they started, but differently. The truth about room 309, through fragmented files, hacked servers, and memories returned through hallucinations. The three pieced together what really happened. In 1964, Northridge Psychiatric launched Project Threshold, a classified program to create artificial psychic bridges using extreme childhood trauma. The plan: if you could break a child's mind at just the right time, maybe you could rebuild it as a conduit, one that could access the minds of others. Elsie was the final test subject. The problem? She connected to the others, but wouldn't stop. Her mind kept reaching into every child who'd passed through the facility. Even years later, even after the fire, even after death, Sophia leaned forward. So we're, what? Just remnants of her? No, Nina whispered. We're survivors. She's the echo. But the echo's becoming louder, Tyler said grimly. And if we don't stop it, room 309 doesn't stay inside our heads. He turned to Sophia. You were the first to wake up. You saw her in the hospital. I thought it was the drugs, she said. Nina added. And I painted her before I'd even seen her face. Sophia whispered. Then what does she want from us? The message comes again that night. All three of them dreamed the same thing. They were back in the burned room. Room 309. Elsie stood at the center, hands outstretched. They made me choose. But I never wanted to be the key. She looked at them one by one. Now I need one of you to stay. And the others to lock the door. Sophia screamed, stay where? But Elsie just smiled, a tear slipping down her cracked cheek. Where I've been. They woke up gasping, on Nina's hand in charcoal. Tomorrow, come alone. The final descent back to Northridge. They went together. Armed with maps, flashlights, fire extinguishers, and the knowledge that the only way out might be leaving one of them behind. They reached room 309 at 3:17. And of course, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, just as before, soot-covered walls, flickering lights, vents that breathed. And on the bed, Elsie. But this time, she was real. Or at least, as real as she needed to be. She looked older now. More human than ghost. More girl than memory. You came, she whispered. Sophia stepped forward. We've seen what they did to you, Elsie blinked. No, you've seen what they did to you. The final memory returns. Elsie raised a hand, and the walls shifted, not physically, but in their minds. Suddenly they were small again. Children, trapped in beds, wired to machines. They saw their own faces, crying, screaming, confused, and then they saw each other, three kids, in three rooms, all wired to her. Elsie strapped down in room 309. Their pain had powered her. Their fear had sustained her. And when she broke, they broke too. The fire wasn't an accident. It was her rage. Back to reality. Tyler dropped to his knees. I was part of it, he gasped. They used my panic to push her over the edge. Sophia turned to Elsie. Why show us now? Elsie looked at Nina. Because she's the only one who painted the door. Nina's voice cracked. I didn't mean to. I just saw it. Elsie stepped closer. And now, someone has to close it. The walls began to shake. Smoke filled the air. And from the vents, other faces started to appear. Shadows of former patients. Memories reawakened, screams returning. Sophia shouted, how do we stop it? Elsie looked at them softly. One of you has to take my place. Emotional climax. Nina stepped forward. I'll do it. Sophia grabbed her. No, no way. I don't have a family, Nina said. No husband, no kids, no one waiting. Tyler. shook his head. That doesn't mean your life is worth less. Nina looked at him. It means I can hold the door, so no one else has to. Elsie extended her hand. Nina took it. Betrayal or sacrifice? But at the last second, Sophia pulled Nina back and stepped in her place. I lost everything, she said quietly. I have nothing left to lose. Nina screamed. Tyler reached out. Sophia, don't. But she smiled. Tell Theo I remember. She touched Elsie's hand and vanished. The room exploded in white light. The silence after when it cleared. Room 309 was just a room. No smoke. No vents. No whispering. Sophia was gone. Elsie was gone. And on the wall, written in ash, the door is shut. Don't open it again. Epilogue. 1 week later, Tyler and Nina sat quietly at a bench outside the hospital where Sophia first heard the voice. Tyler handed her a letter. It was from Theo. She saved me once by forgetting, and again by remembering. I'll never stop loving her. Tell her story, so no one ever builds another room 309. Nina folded the letter, eyes wet. She wanted to be forgotten, she whispered. But I won't let her be. Tyler looked up at the sky. And what if it's not over? Nina exhaled. Then we remember the signs. And just as she said it, a nearby vent creaked open, ever so slightly. Sophia opened her eyes to silence. No buzzing monitors. No vent sounds. No voice in her ear. She was lying on a floor, cold, smooth, and strangely alive. The tiles pulsed faintly beneath her skin like veins. She sat up slowly. Room 309 wasn't burning anymore. It was frozen, walls stained gray. Time stopped mid-breath. In the center of the room stood Elsie, now calm, no longer the cracked, vengeful ghost she'd been in the waking world. Sophia tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Elsie smiled faintly. This is what's left of me. The place between. This isn't death, Elsie said softly, walking around the edge of the room. It's memory, the deepest part, the one no one can delete. Sophia stood, her legs unsteady. Then I'm inside your mind? Elsie looked at her. You're inside the door. The place they made when they broke us open. She explained. Once Project Threshold collapsed and the facility burned, the trauma didn't die. Because trauma never dies. It hides in the subconscious of the survivors. Elsie became a container, a prison, a conduit. And when Sophia, Nina, and Tyler were re-exposed to triggers, hospitals, artwork, fire, the door creaked open again, and Elsie remembered everything. Sophia sat against the wall. I gave up everything to come here. I thought this would save them. It did, Elsie said. But there's one last thing to finish. She raised her hand. Suddenly, the room changed. It became a hallway. The hallway from Sophia's childhood home. Then a hospital corridor. Then a dark basement. Each time, Sophia recognized something. This is, she whispered. Yours, Elsie said. The memories you locked away. The memories Sophia forgot. Sophia suddenly saw herself as a little girl, maybe 4 years old, in a hospital gown, clinging to her mother. A doctor stood nearby, clipboard in hand. She's showing strong baseline signs, he said. We'll transfer her to phase 2 next week. Sophia's mother cried silently. She hadn't been in a car crash by accident. She'd been part of the experiment. Her memories altered. Her history rewritten. Theo wasn't just her husband. He'd been her caregiver after the project ended, assigned to her, and then he fell in love. The room shattered again. Back to room 309. Sophia covered her mouth, crying. I was one of them, she whispered. Elsie knelt in front of her. They didn't just break me. They broke you, but you got out, and I never did. Sophia looked into her eyes. Why me? Why bring me back? Elsie hesitated. Because I wanted to be free, and I couldn't do it alone. The final choice. Elsie stood and opened her palm. A small light hovered above it, glowing, humming. "This is what they left inside me," she said. "The original key." Sophia stepped closer. "What happens if I take it?" Elsie answered, voice trembling. "Then I finally disappear, for good, and the door stays shut, forever." Sophia's hands shook. "But if I don't?" Elsie looked up, haunted. "Then I stay. And sooner or later, I'll reach again. And the next child I touch may not survive me." Sophia nodded. She knew what had to be done. She reached out, took the key, and the light poured into her. Elsie screamed, not in pain, but release. Like every shattered part of her was finally allowed to go. She smiled once, just before her body turned to dust. "Thank you," she whispered, then vanished, outside in the real world. Nina woke up gasping. So did Tyler. The motel clock read 3:17 a.m. The vent above the bed was gone. Just smooth ceiling. The ash on the floor, wiped clean. And on Nina's phone, a text from unknown. "She's safe. You're free. Tell the story." Nina began to cry. Tyler closed his eyes. "God," he whispered, "she actually did it." 1 year later, a book hit shelves across 5 countries. Room 309, The Memory That Fought Back, by Nina Verma and Tyler Harday. Story that blurred the line between truth and psychosis. Critics debated whether it was real. Readers claimed the same dreams after finishing it, but no one could explain the 3 patients across 3 cities who'd never met and still described the same girl. The same room and the same vents. And nowhere in any hospital in North America was there a room 309 anymore. They'd all been RENUMBERED. Erased. Just in case. Final scene. Somewhere else, a girl sits in a waiting room. She's 7, pale, quiet. Nurse walks by with a clipboard. "Name?" she asks kindly. The girl looks up, smiles faintly. "Elsie." The nurse tilts her head. "That's a pretty name. Where are your parents?" The girl's eyes flick to the wall. There's a vent, and from inside it, something blinks. Elsie grins. "They'll be here soon." The end.